Hey everyone, I'm back again. So this time I had another relapse of the functional neurological disorder where I experienced paralysed lower limbs. But I'm back and walking now. And so Saturday now, it's been 6 days. So it took 6 days to sort of recover this time. And 6 days to get out of this house, I tell you. But nonetheless, I got out. So, yeah, I have been doing some research on it, and I found a paper which, before I actually, or a YouTube video with a lecture, and it indicated that in something like MS, it actually affects the grey matter of the brain, and with FND, it affects the white matter of the brain. So I'm trying to do a little bit more research to sort of comprehend and understand that. I'm not too up to speed on that type of scientific research, so I'm hoping to understand it a lot better. Thank you everyone that viewed my original video. I just didn't anticipate to even be minutely popular, to be honest. So, but yes, so at this state of time, I'm back up and walking after 6 days. There's just so much to, where do I begin? I want to have a bit of a chat about my recent symptoms and sort of to the lead up of possibly my FND diagnosis. So I've had a suprapubic catheter put in place, and just to explain to those who don't understand what that is, it's a little tube that allows me to urinate that goes into a hole just underneath my belly button, and it goes into my bladder. Then a balloon is blown up so that tube will not come out. And as a result, I pee from a catheter. Essentially it's a penis, really, but for a female. So I technically do stand up to pee, or I pee into a bag. So this is what I had a few years back. And that was because I found it very hard to pee normally, so out of my urethra. And over time, over probably a period of a year, I was an outpatient with the urology gynecological area of my local hospital. So over time, they found that I couldn't actually pee normally, which is what resulted in me getting. And it's an operation that you need, and you need to get a hole put into your suprapubic area, which is underneath your belly button, and then a hole put into your bladder, essentially. So the tube gets fed from your underneath your belly button to the actual bladder itself, enabling you then to do a pee that way. Obviously, it's bad when you can't pee, because urine will then flood back into your kidneys, causing kidney damage. I didn't have that, but I suppose I was awfully close to that occurring at some stages. So that's been in the past 3 years. Say for the past year and a half to 2 years, I've been experiencing bowel issues. So we're getting deep down and personal now, but for me, regular was every 3 to 4 days. But now, over the progression of the FND and the diagnosis, I constantly feel like I need to open my bowels. However, I may actually only open my bowels 2 to 3 times a day. And we're talking normal stools, like the way it should be, like a long sausage type of thing. But I have noticed the progression of that getting worse over the last couple of years. As it turns out, symptoms of FND can be bladder and bowels. So I'm assuming that that was the early onset of the functional neurological disorder or conversion disorder. Only I didn't recognize it at the time. And really, I had no cause to sort of recognize it, to be honest with you. The experience that I have now is, so in December of 22, on December 22nd actually of 22, I was reaching up to put some towels away and my legs just gave way. I never passed out. I never lost consciousness. My legs just gave in. And at first I could get through my bottom. I sort of crawled through my bottom, and I did have a carer at that stage, so she was able to help me get back up on the bed. But as the hours progressed, I couldn't even move my toes. My lower limbs were paralyzed. It was the scariest thing I'd ever experienced. Of course, the worst case scenario was MN, MS, other conditions that were neurological or even caused in the spine. I do have a complex back issues as well, like herniated discs, which are pressing against nerves. So I do get lower back pain, mid back pain, and pain in my cervical area. But they're all from herniated discs, but they're not to the extent where I need to have surgical interventions. My neurosurgeon, obviously, it's not impacting me enough, obviously. I am living on opioids, small doses at the moment. I was on high doses up to a year to 2 years ago because of my chronic back condition, but I was a lot heavier in weight then as well. I've had the surgery, weight loss surgery, which was successful at the beginning, and now because of my FND, I've sort of fallen a bit behind and I've gained a bit more weight, and I can see that in my face and other areas as well, my clothes. I mean, I'm back into a size 20 again, whereas I was in a size 16. Got down from a 26 to a 16 and I'm back to a 20. But hey, I'm not going to persecute myself or feel bad, because I guess I've learnt over the years that doesn't help you anyway. Negativity and putting yourself down and all the rest of it, it does you more harm than good. Except that I've accepted that I can take 10 steps back and only 2 steps forward at my worst times. But I accept it. The only thing that I find it very hard to accept at the moment is when I do have these relapses, like the no legs. Last Sunday night, after taking sheets off my bed and hanging out maybe 6 items on my line, which normally I cannot do because of the pain in my back, I sat on a recliner chair, and I couldn't get back up. And it wasn't until basically yesterday that I sort of gained almost 90% back. I was lucky that my physiotherapist came out again, and he sort of reiterated, don't look down at yourself. It's okay. You're going to have these setbacks. And looked at how I was walking and sort of made me correct myself, like lift my knee a bit more so that my toes weren't dragging on the floor. Try and lift the toes as my foot comes off the ground so that my heel is more likely to touch first. Little things like that. I do notice that I do get lethargic, and definitely by the evening time. My carers come twice a day, in the morning and then at night, mainly for my medication as well. I tend to drop a lot of my medication, so I was tending to miss bits and pieces of my medication, dropping it on the floor, and I've got a little dog as well, so it not just endangers her life, it didn't really do me any justice either, because I was missing antidepressants, painkillers, and all that does impact not just psychologically, but also mentally, same thing, and physically. So it wasn't doing me any good. So I do notice that I get lethargic. I do notice also that when I do have these relapses, I'm waking up with headaches, very mild headaches that tend to go away when I take my medication, because I'm also on Brufen and paracetamol throughout the day, not generally overnight because I'm sleeping, but that medication tends to sort of get rid of my headaches more so. So lethargicness, headaches. I have noticed over the years that I've had a bit of trouble with my swallowing. Sometimes I'll cough on really thin fluid, or I can't swallow like I'm chewing my food. I want to swallow, but I can't just do that action. So I've got to stop, think about the action, and then swallow. Although I haven't spoken to a OT about that, or speech therapist, I guess. I'm not too sure who it would be. I haven't yet spoken to them, but I think it is becoming a bit of an issue. And it's not just during relapses as well. It can be when I'm not having a relapse and I'm moving about. I can find it hard to swallow. So I may actually have that investigated a little bit more in the aspect of being treated, not necessarily finding out why, because all the research and all the journal articles and all the other experiences that I've heard people tell me about, they also experience swallowing issues or cognitive issues with being able to put a sentence together some days. You know, you want to use the word glass in your sentence. You can picture what it is, but you just can't say the word. It's like it's on the tip of your tongue virtually, but a little bit more than that. You know it's glass, but you just can't physically spit it out. So there are a lot of aspects that I'm slowly learning about that are and can be symptoms of functional neurological disorder, FND. So I am learning a great deal. I'm only I've only recently been diagnosed with it. And I also learned as well very recently, that there's a type of MRI that you can have, which I'm not sure that I've had, but I could have possibly had. At the time, I had a bad panic attack and they couldn't finish the last 7 minutes of the MRI. I just couldn't get back in there, and my catheter was killing me. I don't know what happened. I don't know whether it was just the mind telling me that the catheter was going crazy or what it was. I had a bag on. I was draining into a bag. Urine was draining into a bag. So it's not like there was a reason for example, wanting to go to the toilet, or I was busting, or I don't know. It was just weird. My catheter, it's like it was burning from inside out, down in the bladder area. So I couldn't actually finish the MRI. So that where I was coming from in that aspect was, there's an MRI that actually shows the white matter of your brain and lesions or something to that effect. I really have to read up more about it. I'm going to include some web sites that have some of this information in it for you guys out there that perhaps want to learn a bit more. Although it appears that the people I have been listening to, like Lenny, and I'll include her YouTube page below as well, she's taught me a bit, and you already know about the white matter type of stuff. So I'm yet still such a really recent diagnosis. I wasn't diagnosed until January this year. And since then, I've probably had, this is my third relapse, but the longest recovery time. The other recoveries took about 1 to maybe 3 days. This one was 6 days. where I was basically stuck in bed. I'm just lucky, I guess, that I can wee into a bag. Although my bowels were affected, so I did find myself having to actually get from my bed to my walker, because I haven't yet delved into a wheelchair or anything like that can help me get around the house when I do have relapses or out and about. I'm such an early diagnosis that I haven't sort of worked out the equipment I'm going to need yet. I previously was using a walker, so at the moment I'm sort of using that to get in and out of bed with. And then to the toilet, I get pushed to the toilet, and then the carer helps me get onto the toilet, because naturally I can't pull my dacks down when I'm on the loo. So I've been very fortunate that I already have carers coming in. There's just so much fucking, it's overload at the moment. It's literally overload of information, and I'm getting more and more grey hairs as I go along, and wow. So, even making this 15-minute, 16-minute video is tiring for me. So I did go out this morning. We went to, my carer drove me to, first time in 6 days since I've been out of the house. We drove to Jacob's Well. We sat out on the benches there and played some Rummy Cup, which is a game that one of my carers introduced me to when I actually had the initial incident. And they sort of said that I've got conversion disorder, or FND. The best buy ever. It helps my mind. Yeah, if you've heard of it, get it. It's a great game. But yeah, we went for a drive there. So that too can also be exhausting for me. And I don't really walk too far. I walked possibly 20 meters at most to get to the shop where I bought an ice cream and a cup of coffee, to the bench, and then back to the car again. So even after that, I'm quite tired. So I'm looking at going to have a bit of a snooze after I make this video. I'll link Lenny's video below. I got her original video off a organization called FIND. So it's FINDAUS.org. It's an Australian website. And it just explains what it is, symptoms. It's pretty informative. It's basic, but it does lead you to people like Lenny, who has got FND, very similar symptoms to myself, or me to herself. The great thing is that NDIS in Australia has now recognised FND as a disability. So fantastic news. It is absolutely brilliant news. So I'm hoping to get some assistance from them as well. But take care, you guys. Keep striving for your best. And I hope you've found my experiences informative and interesting. I hope to actually spread a lot more news about FND, chronic pain, and domestic violence. Initially, that's what my YouTube was all going to be all about, is domestic violence and chronic pain. However, it's now extended to FND as well. So there you go. It's amazing. Life in general. Take care, you guys, and I hope to see you again really soon. Bye for now.